Hello, I'm Ray Riddell. I'm a member of the New Brunswick Wildlife Trust Fund Council, and I'm here today on Machias Seal Island to learn about a project that is underway here. My guest is Stephanie Simmons, who is a master's student at UNB and conducting some of the research here that the Wildlife Trust Fund is funding. So Stephanie, tell me what's going on here.
A lot of exciting projects. We do species monitoring for the summer, for the breeding season. We do the monitoring of puffins, razorbills, Arctic terns, which we have successfully had nests and chicks this year, which is a big deal. We haven't had those since 2006. And a lot of the things that we have going on here are long-term monitoring, and then we also have individual projects. My project entails working with puffins and razorbills. What I'm doing is I'm putting out geolocators on the birds. I am hoping to gather information on the time that they spend off the island out of breeding season.
Well, during the breeding season, you know they're here, so you can monitor their activity. But when they leave here?
As soon as they're gone from the breeding season, we have not a lot of information of what they're doing out in the open water. So the breeding season is only a few months of the year, and so that's a lot of time that we don't have information on. Okay,
just tell me what a geolocator is.
A geolocator is a little logger that gets attached to a leg band on the puffin, or razorbills as well. We're doing a little bit on those as well. And that logger will take some information from the position of the bird when they're out at sea. It will collect data, and when it comes back to breed on the island next year, we know what burrow it breeds in. So we will target those burrows in order to get those tags back. Once we have those tags, we can download all the information from the tags and find out where the bird has been. So it'll have different positions throughout, and hopefully on a global scale. So this is a very large picture opportunity.
Okay, shall we go and see how that's done?
Yeah, of course.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Stephanie, tell me what these stakes are that I see all over the hillside here with numbers on them.
The stakes that you see here, they're stakes that mark off specific burrows for the puffins. Mm-hmm. So Machias Seal Island actually has the largest population of puffins in the Gulf of Maine, and so it's impossible to keep track of all of them. So what we do is we have stakes that are marked off with specific numbers, like this one here, the 473, and what that lets us do is it lets us monitor a specific bird's breeding success throughout the years. So what happens is the puffins will continue to return to the same nests every year as long as they are successful with their mates. So as long as they're able to raise healthy chicks, they'll keep coming back to the same place. So it's very interesting information to be able to follow a specific bird for a long period of time.
Yeah, great. Now would there be something in that burrow?
We can definitely find out.
Okay, well let's look in there.
All right. So it's important when you head over to the burrows to stay on the rocks, because there are burrows everywhere in the ground. So if there's any open patch of ground, there's likely a burrow underneath.
Okay.
So I'm going to disappear here for a second
while
I grab this bird. All right. So we're in luck.
Oh, look at this.
We have a chick in here. He's getting pretty big.
Wow.
So when they start off, these guys are, when this guy hatched, he was probably the size of my hand. And he's had his second growth measurement now.
Now, do you measure them periodically?
We check the burrows every few days once we know that the chick has hatched. Okay. So the first time we encounter the bird, we do measurements for the wing cord. Mm-hmm. So from the notch here to the tip of the feather. And we also take measurements on the head. So we do the head bill, which is about like from here to here. And then we do the culmen, which is just the tip here. Woo! To the tip of the bill. He's getting a little feisty here. So within the first 10 days, they just grow like crazy. They're eating all the time and just growing. And then from the 10th day to about the 35th day, when they were to fledge, so when they go off on their own, they have a linear growth. So if we get measurements throughout that time, we can follow a linear a linear path as to
Okay.
how quickly they're growing. So that's how we measure our survivability and our survivorship and breeding success.
So how long before this little fellow goes off by himself?
This guy here is about between the 15 to 20 day period. And so once he reaches day 35, it could be any time after that.
Okay.
So day 35 is the average fledge day, but it could be, you know, a few days later. We did have a big storm, so it's possible that we might have a little bit of a slower fledge with the chicks, but we won't be able to tell until that starts to happen.
Do you band the chicks or do you band the adults?
We do both.
You
So
do both?
if we encounter an adult, we will band it because it does provide a lot of information. All the islands in the Gulf of Maine use a system where we can input the band numbers and we can follow where the bird has been in the Gulf of Maine, which is really interesting. And then for the chicks, once they reach their fledging age, so around 35 days, they're able to support the band. So we'll band them at that time.
Okay, they're not able to support the band right now. We couldn't band this
No.
little fella right now.
No, we couldn't band this little guy right now, but I could show you how the geolocator would work
Yeah, please.
if this was an adult puffin.
Okay, if it was an adult puffin, what would you be doing?
This is the geolocator right here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a little tag. It's got a lot of information storage in there. And what we would do is I would take a zip tie like this one here and wrap it around this area. And then what we want to do is we want to get a leg band. So this is what we would use to attach onto the puffin's leg.
Right,
So we want to put this onto the tag.
and that opens up like that,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
you'd
So we would slide it in here
slide it in there and slide it onto his leg.
and slide it onto his leg.
Okay,
And we can do it in that method, or we can also attach it to a pre-existing tag on the bird. So if it's already banded with a metal band, we could also put it on there.
okay. So Stephanie, what does one of these tags cost?
So a tag like this costs about $300 a piece. And right now, the amount of them that I have at my disposal is 27.
Mm-hmm. And so you purchased 27 with
Yeah.
funding.
Yes.
And do you have any maps that you could show us that have the tracks of the puffins when
I
they're away
do.
from here?
I do. So not for away out of the breeding season.
Okay.
That's what the geolocators are for. But I have a very great opportunity right now where I'm able to use GPS loggers right now during the breeding season.
Okay.
And those collect a similar type of data. They take positional tracks, and so I do have some maps of that I could show you.
Okay.
But there hasn't been any successful information through geolocator tags.
Okay, because
in
we
the
have to
off-breeding
wait.
season.
We have to wait until they come back to
Right.
retrieve the data next year.
Exactly.
When they come back, and you know they come back to the same burrow, so you know it's the same bird.
Exactly. So his claws, they're not super sharp right now, but they kind of scratch a little bit. But just be extra gentle with him,
I'm being very
and he'll
gentle with
show
him,
you
and
some
look,
love.
he's not. Yes, and he's not being excited. is
no, he
He's-
likes you.
I think he does. I think I have a friend for life. Does his bill develop a color right away, or when he becomes eligible to breed?
They do get their breeding plumage when they're able to breed, but it's possible to see some birds around here even during the breeding season now that still have their winter plumage. So the adult puffins that have a nice white face, those are in breeding plumage, and they'll have more defined color on their bills. And if they're out of breeding plumage, then they usually have a dusty, dark kind of gray splash to their face, and they'll have a duller bill.
Okay, now this would be one of the first times that he's seen light, right? It's
Right.
very dark in there,
Yes.
so
we should probably get him back.
put him back.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll give him to you.
All right.
Because he's biting me.
Getting feisty.
Okay, and I'll take that from you, and
Those guys.
there he goes.
All right.
Look at him.
All right. So we're gonna go bring him back.
Now we've come inside from the burrows. What am I looking at here?
Okay, so this is the data that I have recovered from the GPS loggers, the ones that are collecting the real-time data.
Right.
So these are birds from this breeding season that have been foraging around Machias Seal Island. So Machias Seal Island is actually this little, it's just hidden behind these points down here. Each color of the pin is a different individual, and then there's several different trips within that.
So I can see the yellow individual seems to be heading sort of east, and these others are heading west, and some are heading south. They're not all heading in the same direction.
Right, and one of the factors of that could be that some of these are incubating birds. So some of these tracks were tracks that I collected earlier in the season on birds that had been incubating eggs. So they're going out in order to feed themselves and to bring food back for the chicks. So this one here is particularly interesting because we have a track where it's heading over to Briar Island in Nova Scotia. So he's going quite a long ways, and he's doing it repeatedly.
Now, why would he go a longer way to feed himself and feed his chick?
It could be that there's a better food source there. The trip might be longer and he might expend more energy heading to that direction, but if he can get more energy back once he gets there, then it's worth it.
Excellent.
I also have some tracks from razorbills, which I've also deployed tags on. And you can see how these change a little bit more. So the puffins, they were headed more in the southern direction, and razorbills are heading up northeast. Okay. So some of them are coming close even to, I mean, St. John's up here, so it's still a little ways off, but I mean, they're working their way up there.
Is that because there's a different food source?
Could be that there's a better food source over there that they can get to that the puffins can't attain.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for sharing your knowledge with me and with the New Brunswick Wildlife Trust Fund Council. It's very important research that you're doing, and it's nice to know that the money that comes from the fund is going to such valuable research, and it's also nice to know that the money that's coming to the fund from the conservation plates is going to a good cause. So thank you very much, and good luck with your research, and maybe I'll drop back and see you next year.
Thank you, and I'll look forward to that. It was a pleasure having you out here.
Thank you. I'm here with Dr. Tony Diamond, who's a research professor at UNB, in charge of not only this project, but many other projects on this particular island. Tony, can you basically explain the importance of this research and the importance of the funding that comes from not only the Wildlife Trust Fund, but from other funding agencies?
Yep. We've been studying the seabirds here for since 1995. And what we can do with our basic funding from the federal government, from Canadian Wildlife Service of Environment Canada, is track the breeding success and the survival of the birds and what they feed on and so on. So we can track changes, but we can't answer questions as to why things are changing. And my main interest is in how the seabirds here are reflecting changes that are going on in the marine ecosystem. And the money that the council very kindly gave us for tags allows us to start to delve into the part of the bird's life history when they're not breeding on the island. So most of their lives they're not here, they're somewhere else, and we don't know where, and we don't know why. So these various kinds of tags allow us to track their movements around the western North Atlantic and around the Gulf of Maine at different times of year, which we simply would not be able to do with our regular funding. We are still operating on the same amount of money from the federal government that we had 20 years ago, for which we are very grateful. But the money that the Wildlife Council and other non-government do very kindly give us allows us to ask these other questions that we simply couldn't even begin to ask without that kind of funding. And I would like to take the opportunity to say that the Wildlife Council has been very generous to my program on this island and other places for all the time it's been in existence and I've been here. So their funding has been critical to our success.
Excellent, and we can definitely see the successes that you're getting from the funding.
Yeah.
Excellent.